So what's going on, guys? So I know this isn't my typical setup with the lighting. I'm not mic'd up. This room is pretty echoey. This is the room that I grew up in. I'm temporarily back at home. Time is of the essence, and I don't have time to have separate videos for each iPhone 13. So for the remaining three phones, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, the regular phone, the regular iPhone 13, and then the iPhone 13 mini. I'm just going to talk about all these three phones in this one video. I don't know how long it's going to be. I really wish I had time to make separate videos for all other phones, but I'm just going to compile it into one because I know for some of my friends, they just want my opinion on what I think about the other phones and make their purchasing decisions from there, even though they can just text me. Anyway, so starting off with the iPhone 13 mini, and then I'm going to work my way up to the 13 Pro Max. Also, if you're curious, probably not, I'm using the front-facing camera cinematic mode on the iPhone 13 Pro. So as you can see, it has that nice blur background effect. All the phones are capable of cinematic mode, and I would say that they're all pretty much the same. I wouldn't buy the iPhone 13 Pro series for cinematic mode. I think they all do it perfectly fine, especially if you use the front-facing camera because they're all using the same lens there. But let's talk about the iPhone 13 mini. So the iPhone 13 mini is the cheapest iPhone lineup in terms of the new series that they have, the 13. I really do have mixed feelings about the iPhone 13 mini because although it is the most value oriented or value centric iPhone, whenever a new iPhone comes out now, it feels like a toy in my hand just because of how small it is. And I think it's just because over the years, ever since I've upgraded from my iPhone 6S, that I'm just used to a slightly larger display. Now, for people who have remained on the iPhone 6 all the way to the 7, no, all the way to the 8, and they probably prefer the SE, then I think the iPhone 13 mini is a good choice for you. But if you're a person on the iPhone 10, iPhone 10s, 11, God forbid if you're on iPhone 12 and upgrading, but everyone has their own, preference of what they want, then I think going to the mini might be too small for you. I would say if you can, go to a store, check it out, hold it in your hand, or just pick it up off display. Don't steal it, but pick it up off the display if it's connected to something, and just feel it in your hand. I really do feel like this is. I mean, if you're a rich family, you can buy this for your kid if you want them to just have a decent iPhone. But anyway, price aside, in terms of the performance and specs that you get inside of the iPhone 13 mini, it's pretty much identical to, in terms of performance, of the most expensive iPhone, which is the 13 Pro Max. So you're still getting, I believe, the A15 Bionic chip. So you're not going to see this thing lag in the upcoming years. You're not going to be getting that ProMotion display, unfortunately, but I think that's neither here or there. It's not a deal breaker. iPhone, or I should say iOS animations are extremely smooth. In terms of the camera department, this has two camera lenses and they are upgraded from the iPhone 12. And from my experience of using this phone for 2 days, I accidentally turned on the camera. The camera quality is actually really, really impressive. It's definitely a step up from my iPhone 10. I can definitely notice the difference when it comes to taking shots when it's not necessarily night, but when it's going towards that evening time. My photos definitely turn out a lot better. The video department, much better. There's optical stabilization as well. So when you're walking around with it, excuse me, got a burp. When you're walking around with the phone and you're taking a video, it looks super stable. I love that. The other thing about the regular iPhone 13s is that the colors are, I'd say, more expressive. So this is the Starlight. It's not going to focus because it's in cinematic mode. It can, but I don't have time for that. This is Starlight. It's one of my favorite colors, especially on the iPad mini. But the colors I think this year are much more subtle. The iPhone 12, it was just, I wasn't a fan of the iPhone 12 colors in my personal opinion. I think the iPhone 13 colors are much better, much more suited for the iPhone in terms of its design. You don't have a LiDAR, what's it called, scanner, reader that you have on the Pro series. I don't think that should be a deal breaker for some people as well. The other nice thing is that across the board for all iPhones, it comes with 128 gigabytes of storage, so that's really nice. Trying to think of what else I liked about the Mini. The Mini is also really good just because of, the name itself, Mini. You'll be able to fit it in places you don't usually think you could fit it in before if you're used to a bigger phone. I think a lot of people are going to like this phone, especially when it comes to, putting it in your pocket, fitting it in jackets. I know in some cars, traditional smartphones might just be a little bit too big, and the Mini is just going to be ever so slightly smaller. That is just going to fit in smaller compartments around your vehicle, stuff like that. So in terms of its versatility and where you can go with this phone, and I should also mention the lightness. This phone is extremely light. I just think in terms of versatility, the iPhone 13 mini is a very nice choice. Now, the last thing I want to leave with the iPhone 13 mini is, despite it being the most value focused iPhone, or I should say, since it's the cheapest one, um, I still don't think the iPhone 13 mini is going to sell well. And it's just because I don't, I understand there are people who prefer smaller devices. And for me personally, it's too small, but for other people, it might be perfect. But I just think that the iPhone 13 mini is for a very small target audience, and price alone is not going to sell people on the iPhone 13 mini. I feel like for the demographic and the primary target audience for iPhone users, or I should say Apple consumers in general, is going to be the regular size iPhone 13, or pretty much the iPhone 10 when that came out, so 2017. Those users were just more used to this display, or not display, this just size and fit. But if you're a person who likes the smaller size and you still want majority of the features that come with the newer iPhones, I would say get the mini. Now, moving on to the iPhone 13, I'm also not going to do any cuts in this video because another thing I should mention is I don't have internet, and I could edit this on my computer, but I'm just going to edit this on my iPhone and just shoot it up to YouTube with whatever cellular service I have. That's pretty bad right now. But this is the iPhone 13 regular one. This is, like I said in my iPhone 13 Pro video, this was a very hard choice whether I should upgrade to this phone or the iPhone 13 Pro. Like I said, the thing that sold me for the Pro was I'm not a person that upgrades often, and I just thought it was worth it for me to spend that extra money and go with, I was going to say legitimately the best, but the Pro Max is the best. I was just want to go with the best of what Apple had to offer in terms of the Pro series, but I'm not spending that much money on the Max, and I don't like the screen size. Anyway, the iPhone 13 Pro also has those nice colors that Apple has on the mini, and I think just the feel of this in my hand is so much more comfortable. I know that was horrible for people who are English majors or just picky about the English language, but the size and the weight of this phone is perfect. I think they really nailed it in terms of how they redesigned the inside of the iPhones this year. It's just a very nicely balanced phone. I think I can balance this on one finger. It's a perfect iPhone. The 12 last year, I've said this before, I just felt like it was a little top heavy. Sometimes it was a little bottom heavy, but the weight distribution on this phone, I know a lot of people aren't going to care, but when you first pick it up, it's going to be something that you notice whenever you go back to your regular device, or if you pick up an older device. Now, with the 13, not much is different from the mini. I would say that this just has better battery life. I'd probably say like 15 to 25% more whenever I was using this phone compared to the mini. Not much more I can say about it because it's a fantastic phone. Same thing. Oh my God, my eyes. Jeez, how did that even happen? But I don't even know what I was saying. Oh, in terms of the photos and videos, it's exactly the same as the mini. I was getting amazing picture quality and videos as well. I'll make a completely different video on photos and cameras and smartphones because I have a topic to talk about for that, because I don't know why people are so focused on smartphone cameras nowadays. But The display, it's nice. We're still not getting that Pro Motion, but animations are still silky smooth as always since like the beginning of iPhones. Um, you still get Face ID. Oh, I should let me go back to the mini super quick. So with the mini, oh, it is focusing. So with the mini, the notch, well, all the iPhone 13s have smaller notches this year, but it's most noticeable on the mini, in my personal opinion, just because the mini has a smaller display, and last year's notch was like this big. With this shrunken notch, the display definitely looks bigger. But on the iPhone 13, the notch is small, but it's also um, I don't really notice it compared to the iPhone 10, 10s, and 11, 12. Pretty much looks the same to me. But in terms of performance, you're still getting the A15 Bionic chip, new camera lenses on the back, new colors, lightning port. I'll save my talk about that in a different video. But I think this is a pretty solid upgrade if you're coming from the iPhone 10. I feel like if you have the 11 or 12 or maybe the 10s, you don't need to upgrade. But if you're on the iPhone 10 or below, because I was a person on the iPhone 10, I think that the iPhone 13 is a pretty nice upgrade, especially if you trade in your phone. Not sponsored by Apple or anything to say that. It's your own personal choice. Something that I did myself. But overall, yeah, I think this is a solid phone that Apple released. And now I want to talk about the iPhone 13 mini Max. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the biggest, not the biggest. Yes, it is the biggest iPhone of the bunch, but this is the Sierra Blue. I'm not a fan of the color, but we all have preferences. Stainless steel around the sides. If you want a little bit more detail about the Pro, go watch my iPhone 13 Pro video. But for the Pro Max, this phone in terms of battery life is phenomenal. I'm okay with the battery life on the 13 Pro, but on the 13 Pro Max, this phone just doesn't die unless you force it to die. But we have 3 cameras on the back. The cameras are fantastic this year, especially with the macro lens. The one thing I want to talk about though, this is the notch. The one thing I want to talk about though for the iPhones this year, I'm a little disappointed that we don't have an ultra wide lens on the front for center stage. I think that would be really nice for, since they're introducing FaceTime for everyone now on Android, web, all other platforms. It would have been nice to have center stage on the iPhone, just, people in the call can see that you have an iPhone and it's moving around. But camera and video on the Pro series is side by side. It's noticeable that the Pro is better, but I would say for a vast majority of people that the regular iPhone 13, even the 12, cameras are going to be fine. But the Pro, it is a very good camera. Like my night shots looks like it's shot during the day. It's really impressive. But do keep in mind that this is the most expensive iPhone. It starts at $1099. When I say $1099, I mean $1,999. No, that's wrong. $1,099. Can't do simple math. That's like, anyway. Like I said before, they all come with 120 gigabytes of storage across the board. Lightning cable or lightning port, I should say, 5G, all of them. Not much more I can say. Oh, I guess I can talk about Pro Motion. It's great. Like I said, it's not a deal breaker. After about 15 minutes, you're not really going to notice, but there's not much more I can say about the iPhone 13 because it's really just the iPhone 12 with little bit of extra features. Cameras have changed. That's like the only main thing, but even though there are new cameras this year for the iPhone 13, I still think that the iPhone 12 is a perfectly fine device, even the iPhone 12 Pro. Just because there's like a whole bunch of videos and Apple's announcing that we have new cameras doesn't mean that previous generation cameras are just instantly bad. If you're on the iPhone 10s or above, we're still going to get portrait mode and FaceTime, so I think that's nice. You don't need to upgrade your camera for that. The only thing I would really say to upgrade to the iPhone 13 is if you aren't okay with your battery life, if you aren't okay with your pictures or videos and I guess performance, but I mean, that phone came out a year ago, so I think you're gonna be fine for the most part. So that's all I pretty much have to say about the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Um, these are all the iPhone 13s. I would say, just to do a quick recap, that the iPhone 13 mini is value focused. If you're value first and you just want the best what Apple has to offer in terms of your budget, I would say the iPhone 13 mini is a good choice. If you are a person that's really comfortable with the iPhone 10 size that they've had for many years, I would say get the iPhone 13. And then if you just want the best of the best, or if you're just a max person or a plus person, get the iPhone 13 Pro. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. I appreciate every sub, like, and comment. And as always, much love.